So we all know how difficult it is to isolate our subject from his background in a video clip. And even when we do succeed to isolate the subject from his background using masking, we still need to animate the masking so it follows the subject as it moves around. But in this video, I'll show you how you can easily and efficiently isolate your subject from his background using a tool in After Effects called the Roto Brush. So without much further ado, let's get started with the video. But before we get started with the video, let's first of all talk about what the Roto Brush is. So the Roto Brush is a tool in After Effects used to automate the process of rotoscoping. Rotoscoping is a technique in video editing used to isolate the subject from its background, creating a mask around the subject. Now that we know what the Roto Brush is all about and what it's used for, there are some challenges that comes with using the Roto Brush in After Effects. And I'll go through some challenges that I found it very useful that you should take note of it. The first challenge is working with a contrast clip. That is, your subject should have a contrast from your background so that the tool should be able to identify or distinguish your subject from your background, thereby creating an efficient masking around the subject. And the next challenge is the background changing. So let's say for example we have a clip that has a subject in it but with different backgrounds. That is, the background changes a lot. And while the background is changing, it will be difficult for the Roto Brush to keep tracking the subject, or in some cases it will do track it efficiently, but some cases it won't because the background keeps changing over and over. And the next challenge is the system performance. If your system is not able to handle the Roto Brush tool, it will be difficult for it to process the masking around the subject. Your system should have a good performance so that it handles the Roto Brush in After Effects. Finally, we have tracking the subject. The Roto Brush sometimes won't be able to track the subject as it moves around because of the motion or the blurriness of the subject. So when using the Roto Brush tool, you should take note of these challenges. The clip should be able to have enough contrast, distinguishing the background from the subject, and the background should be static, not changing a lot. And the system performance should be able to handle the Roto Brush. Finally, the subject should be static and not moving all around the scene. It will be difficult for the Roto Brush to capture that. Now in After Effects, this is the clip I'm working with, and I want to place a text behind this subject. And the subject here is this building, this tower here. I want to place a text behind it. So the first thing to do is that I'll double click on the clip, and this is what opens for the clip layer. So I'm going to zoom in. Then to select the Roto Brush tool, you will find it here. You can press the Option key on the Mac or the Alt key on the Windows plus the W key to activate the Roto Brush. So I'm going to click here to activate the Roto Brush. And one thing you should note is that while you're working with this composition area here, you can't use the Roto Brush. You need to double click on the clip you're working with, and it opens in this other section. Then the Roto Brush, you can use it. Now, when the Roto Brush selected, all you have to do is that you just have to click and drag around your subject to mark it. And when you first of all click and start drawing around the subject, you will notice that there is a green line as you draw around. Now you've seen that I've selected the subject, but there's one thing, it has selected some areas that I don't want, like this area here and this other area. I don't want these sections to be selected. So holding the Option key or the Alt key, then dragging again around these areas that I don't want, it will take away those areas that I don't want from the subject. If you want to add another area to the subject, you can just draw around it and it will do that. Now it has selected the subject the way I want it. So what I'm going to do next is that I'll click on this freeze here, and this freeze, and when you click on the freeze, it now masks out the subject that you're working with. And this is the main part that takes a lot of your processing power. And if you don't have a powerful computer, this will really take a lot of time to process. After Effects is done processing the isolation. So what we are going to do next is that I'll go back to the main composition. Now you can see that there's no background. It has removed the background. So we want the background to be there again. I'll press Ctrl D to duplicate the clip. Then move down to the second clip down here. Go to Effects, then click on the Roto Brush and Refine Edge, and then delete it by pressing the Delete key. Now we have the background, which is this clip below, and then the subject, which is this clip above. Now to add an object behind the subject is very easy. Say for example, I want to add a text like I earlier said. Press Command T to activate the text tool. Then I'm just going to type in any random stuff here. I'll just type in tower. So I'm going to place the text in between the background and the subject. Hold the command key and double click on the pan behind tool to center the anchor point of the text layer. Then I'm going to increase the size of the text. And that's how easy you can isolate your subject from its background. You can place not only text behind the subject, but even some images or even another video clip. The main idea is that you should have the background at the bottom, and then you should have the selected object above. Then what you want to place behind should be in the middle, that is in between the background and the subject. What have you learned today? We talked about what the Roto Brush tool is in After Effects, and we said it simply automates the process of rotoscoping. And rotoscoping is a technique in video editing used to isolate a subject from its background, and the challenges we face while using the Roto Brush tool. And we talked about the contrast. Your subject should have a lot of contrast from its background. And we talk about the system performance. Your system should have a good performance to efficiently use the Roto Brush tool. And the subject you're trying to track should be like static. It should not move around. Like the Roto Brush tool will not be able to track the subject throughout the video clip. We also talked about the background changing. It will be difficult for the tool to track it if the background keeps changing and causing a lot of motion in it. Hope you found this video interesting and helpful. And if you did find it helpful, to implement what you learned from the video and leave a feedback in the comment section below, and I'll be there to read your comments. Subscribe so you won't miss the next video from me, and like the video to support the channel grow. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, keep editing.